Hello and welcome to Brian and the Grail Part 2. If you don't know what's going on, then please go back and watch Part 1 of Brian and the Grail. We are going to visit some very questionable pages on the interwebs and hope that we come out virus-free. Let's find us a cheap watch.
Alright, I want to take you on a visual tour of the context of this video. So first, the watch that I'm saving for. This is the website for Armstrong. This is the mirrored force resonance. It has the ARF-15 caliber in it. I think it's a beautiful watch. The one that I want is this version, which is the water. You can see there are two different escapements here, and I'm not going to go into detail about the caliber and how it works and whatnot. That's for a different day. But the one I want here is water. You can see there's fire, and there's the guilloche, and they got a nice configure thing on here, and you can get initials on it and change the hands and stuff like that. But I like this sort of just the default look of this particular watch. But you can see the price tag here. This is converted to US dollars, is in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. New doesn't mean I couldn't find one on the secondary market for a little bit less, but it's an expensive watch. It's going to take me 6 to 8 years to save for. But anyway, so here's the watch that I want, and I went about online looking for something that in some ways resembled this in terms of the color palette and semi-skeletonized movement and the amount of action that you can see on the dial face. So our color palette here, you can see your three main colors. There is the gray, the white, and the blue. There are two different escapements here. You can see them. These are independent but work in semi-unison with each other. Again, I'm going to explain the caliber, but both of these escapements are in motion, and so these are moving at all times as the watch is running. And so I wanted to find something that shared some of these characteristics that was cheap, less than $100 if I could find it for less than $100, just to satisfy that particular itch visually. And also kind of give it a feel if I like that much movement on the dial face, that semi-skeletonized feel, and color palette. So what I was able to come up with and find, if you find something better, by the way, let me know. Put it in comments on the video. But this also helps introduce a lot of cautionary tales, things to watch for whenever you are buying a watch from sort of knockoff, cheap brands, Chinese brands, so on and so forth. There's a lot of detail in this watch that I'm going to talk about in the review, but I want to point out some things online here first. Okay, so this is the Binger 8606XA, as you can see here. Now, I'm going to talk about all the details in a second, and we're going to look at the actual watch also. But before I get into that, let me show you something else that I came up with that was also visually similar. So again, this is sort of our target look visually. You can see this has some similarities. It's got the two flywheels on it. It's got the gray, the blue with the screws anyway, and the strap here is black, but I thought, well, I'll just put a blue strap on it, and again sort of give it this sort of closer look. But there was another one that I was able to find. This is the Reef Tiger watch, which also has some visual similarities. You can see here it's got even actually a little bit of a closer look to the Armstrong.
It's a direct copy of a speake-marin double tourbillon.
But there's one thing that's different about it than the Binger, which I want to point out. So this one is actually visually a little bit closer, and I like the look of it. What I didn't like were really two things, I guess. One is the price. This was $100 more, and of course I'm not wanting to spend a bunch of money here. I want to put my money into my actual savings for my Armstrong. But if we look closely on this one, you can see here's the reverse, which again, this is interesting, but notice that here, and this is on Amazon, you see it has, not necessarily a bad movement. It's a Miyota 6T15. So it's a Japanese movement. It's a little bit bigger than I would want to. This one's at 44 millimeter. They call it a double tourbillon also, but it's not. Just keep that in mind. This isn't actually a tourbillon of any sort. Let me show you on the actual site. So it's $200 here on Amazon. You can see it's got one review for 1 star. and this is kind of interesting to look at. They say, watch the YouTube video of the watch working. It's just for looks. They're not part of the movement. They're not tourbillons. That's the first thing. So this person doesn't really know what they're talking about either. But let's look at it on the actual site. By the way, on the actual site, it's $209, and hey, you get it on sale. But let's look at it up close. You can see the movement is contained right here, and that's what you're seeing on the face of the watch. This is the actual timekeeping mechanism. These flywheels are purely decorative. They're just for looks. And so let's go back and look at the reverse of the movement again. You can see here's the movement. This is the thing that's actually working and doing the timekeeping. It is not tied in any way to the actual flywheels here that you see. These are just artificial escapements, you might call them that. They will move with the motion of your wrists and stuff, but they are purely decorative. They have nothing to do with the actual timekeeping. This is something you see from time to time in different fashion watches and stuff like that. If you look at my blog, watchcomplications.com, they're in general category. From a while back, I had a post on a fossil watch that I also called sort of a cautionary tale. It was a quartz watch, and it had a flywheel on it, an escapement looking mechanism that was a decorative attachment to the actual quartz powered movement, which gave it sort of a mechanical look, but it wasn't mechanical in any sense. It's purely decorative, and that's what these are here. And so even though this is a little bit closer visually to the Strom in look, this was $100 more, and the flywheels here are not part of the movement at all. So there was a couple reasons why I chose not to go down the road. However, I don't know. I'm still thinking, I could pass the Binger along and get this instead. I'm thinking about it. Maybe we'll see. I'm a little torn whether I should get this or the Binger, but I'm thinking. It's just for passing the time, right? So here is the Binger watch. Now let me show you this. If you look on eBay, which is where I initially found it, it's always good to look around. And in both cases, you can see that this Reef Tiger, this is on Amazon. Usually you'll find on Amazon or eBay first. I then look and see if they have an actual store. A lot of times you might find them for cheaper, or at least close to the price from direct from the actual brand, if you want to call it that, online somewhere. So I found this Binger on eBay first. You can see the price ranges. You can see this is $202, 130s. You can see all over the place. There's 150, again 200, close to 150, 217, 194. So these are kind of all over the place. Different, basically different accounts, same company selling this for a variety of prices, to try to get as much money as possible from selling these. If you go direct, you can see this is 115. When I bought it, this was actually at 96. So this changes hourly. It changes daily. They say, here's a deal. You're going to get it for 40% off. I refreshed this page just probably 15 minutes ago, and it was at 50% off, and it was like at $104 or something like that. And then they say, you've got 4 hours and 11 minutes left to get this for a great price. But that's just all part of the hoax, if you want to call it that. If I come back, a day later, this will all be different. It will have a different, amount of hours, minutes, seconds. It's not really a, a quote-unquote deal of any sort. This percentage will change. I got it for $96, so I got it for under $100. And of course, it was free shipping, and so for less than $100, I got this particular watch, which is, I think, it's all right. It's okay. All right, so now let's talk about details that we can see online, and then I'll show you what those are like with the actual watch. I might pick me up one of these instead. So just my stand-in, right? This is just to get me through. This is to get me through. You try waiting 6 to 8 years for a watch. Okay, so let's look at the headline here and let's pick it apart. They say it's Swiss. It's not Swiss. It's Chinese in every way, shape, and form. They call it a double tourbillon. It's not a double tourbillon. It's not even a single tourbillon. It's not a tourbillon in any sense. These two flywheels you see over on the actual watch in the bottom left and right of the dial face are just regular old escapements. There's nothing. They're not rotating around a carousel. They're not tourbillons in any way. They're regular old escapements. So the terminology is a common misuse, again, just like moon phase often is with cheap Chinese watches. So be watching for that. They call it rugged. Not really. It's more meant for a dress style watch. They call it luxury. It is not luxury. The one I'm saving for is luxury. It is mechanical. It is a full-blown mechanical movement. Now, in order to, again, get with the color palette that I want, these do come on bracelet if you want, and of course there's different colors. I want this on leather, blue leather to be specific. It comes on black. It's a cheap, really cheap black leather strap. I wanted to put it on blue, so I got some straps to go on this, which again I'll show you those in the flesh. So this is the watch that I went with. Let's look at a few more things that we can look at on the actual watch. So not Swiss, not a double tourbillon, not rugged or luxury. But you know what? Sounds good. And it was only $96. I mean, come on. I saved a lot of money. All right, let's look at some of the specs. So it is mechanical. Notice they say moon phase. I was, again, expecting that it was a 24-hour, not an actual moon phase. Turns out it actually is. Complete calendar and auto date. What they're saying there is up here around the moon phase, you can see there is the calendar, the date. That's what they're talking about. The way you adjust on a month with a different number of days than 31 is a push button on the side of the case. I can't wait to show you that. I've not seen that on a watch before. It's kind of funny. So let's continue looking at the specs. So we've got different features here. It's only 3 bar, so splash a little bit here and there, but don't get it wet, in other words. The dial diameter is 42. Now this is something that I was considering as well, because the Armstrong is 43.5 about, and so the Reef Tiger is 44 millimeter. So it's a little bit closer, and again has that same sort of visual look with the size of the actual timekeeping dial on the right side, but the 42 millimeter is a little bit closer to what I like to actually wear. The case thickness is 13. Again, this is a little bit thicker by a couple millimeters than the Reef Tiger was. I'm sacrificing a couple millimeters in the diameter for the thickness. So this one's 42, by 13, whereas the Reef Tiger was 44 by 11. Again, I might try the Reef Tiger and then pass one of these along, whichever one I don't like, the most. But anyway, they call it, of course, luxury style. They say the bandwidth is 19 millimeter, but it's not. It's 21. What's interesting is both of those sizes are sort of non-standard. Usually even numbers, 18, 20, 22, 24. Those are standard strap widths. They say it's 19 on their site. It's actually 21, so that's a little bit misleading as well. And then case material is stainless steel. They say that the crystal is sapphire. It's not. How do I know? I have a tester, and I'll show you that as well. It is an automatic movement, however, in the watch. And they then goes on, the story about this watch, that it's, it's elegance, versatile sport watches, blah, 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 transparent back. This is what the back looks like. Again, I'll show you that in the flesh. It's transparent. They say high hardness double coated Gorilla Gem glass. They call it sapphire up in the feature list, up in the spec list. They say sapphire right here, but it's not. I don't know if it's actually this double coated Gorilla Gem glass, whatever the world that is. But it's certainly not sapphire. It's regular old mineral crystal, as far as I can tell. It's not any type of patented mechanical technology, no latest breakthroughs. So it's, very embellished language in this, documentation, but it's not anything particularly amazing, in a sense. They are flywheels as opposed to tourbillons, which is very different. And different, colors. This is what the box looks like. I'll show you that as well. And yeah, so that's the specs on the site, and again, I will talk to you about that as I show you the actual watch. So it's always interesting to look and see what sort of marketing and specs are provided versus what actually is in the watch. And I'll talk a little bit more, as I've already mentioned, when I show you, but both of these escapements on the Armstrong are both working together to help keep more accurate time. So these are actually connected to the movement, obviously, in this extremely high-end, haute horology, example of watchmaking. Here in the Reef Tiger, these are purely decorative flywheels on here. The movement itself is much smaller, but on the Beamer, I'll show you this from the reverse as well. One of these escapements is actually tied to the movement, the other is decorative. Okay, and I'll talk to you about that whenever I show you the actual watch.
Well, that was interesting, and hopefully some of the information that I pointed out you'll find helpful or useful whenever you are doing your own searches for perhaps low-cost watches online as well, or things to watch for, the cautionary tales. Okay, what's up in the next video? The Contender. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, ring the bell if you want updates, and I would welcome any and all feedback in the comments.